It's the 15th April. Hard to tell, huh? Getting this big mother of a storm here, and we got a little bit of freezing rain. Always going to work on the dirt bikes today, but that would be a little insane. Here, how's this? Safety glasses so I can talk to you. It's coming down in hail and freezing rain. It's not very comfortable. So I'm going to move in the shop and find me something to do here. Alright, we're going to get right back into the clutch assembly here. These are the parts here I was waiting on. They're the washers. Okay, one goes down here on the input shaft of the transmission in front of the bearing. Before you assemble any of the clutch parts, you need the basket and the bearing. Alright, then you put your basket on, and you put the other one on top of the basket. Now for these here, they're a little tricky because you got to line up gears now. There's really not that much to it. You see there, it starts to line up gears, and you can see the crank is rotating. So we got all the front gears are lined up then, the power valve, the water pump, the crank, main drive. And you just rotate it, and you see there it clicked in the rest of the way. Okay, you know it's flush when you look in and you see that the bearing is even with this outer race right here. Okay, and then you can put your kicker on here if you want to check that and see the hole in that kicks and works. Okay, so we'll get the other washer on there. And this is also a confirmation though you got everything on the way it's supposed to be. Because that, when it's in, and it should seat on the bearing there, it should be flush. Like you can almost not feel a lip between the back of the clutch basket and that washer. Alright, clutch hub's in. The observant among you will notice the JB Weld here. I wouldn't honestly recommend it if it was a racing bike or something like that. The top of this one, the bolt will thread in just fine, but the top of it is missing a chunk in the corner over here. And you know, for what I'm going to do, it'll be fine. I'm not power racing this thing. We're just bombing around the back of the farm. I just put that in there to help keep it from breaking anymore. The big nut down here is, I believe it's 80 Newton meters or 50, what was it here? 56 pounds on a torque wrench. You bend up the washer a little bit here. It's really difficult to bend if it's right flat. I should have bent it a bit beforehand, but you don't want to pry against the outside here because that's aluminum and you can break it. So it's only really got to come up enough to keep the nut from turning easily. Believe me, at 50 some odd foot-pounds, that's not going to turn easy. The clutches itself, real easy. People will pack them in all at once, and to me that's just farting around. You start out with the friction disc and then you just alternate. Nothing to it. Friction disc, steel plate, friction disc, steel plate, and I don't know why anybody would fart around with it to, you know, to do it all at once when it's as easy as that. You know you got them in all the way and flush because they're flush with the top here when they're done. If they're not flush, you either got too many in there or the first one's probably the problem, is not down all the way. Alright, and once you got those in, you should no longer be able to rotate the inner hub easily against the outer hub, right? So it should rotate as one assembly at that point, you know, just because of the friction in there. Now those are dry at the moment. You can put oil in there if you want to, you know, for the first startup, but you're going to be filling the crankcase anyways, and you know, before you start it, you're going to kick it a few times just to get oil circulated around. I don't typically worry about that. Alright, so there's the pressure plate on. You can see there's that clutch rod. Alright, now these screws are just turned in about 3-4 turns each by hand. As you can see, that's the JB welded one, and it's in there, so the threads are holding, but once it's in all the way, it'll be fairly solid. So what I'll do here is I'll just go around with the Phillips screwdriver and tighten them all up. All right, all torqued down. I cheat a bit. I put a pair of vice grips on the output shaft of the transmission and put it in gear. When you're doing that, if you decide to go that route, don't crank them down real hard because you can damage the threads. These are, you know, they're not on there tight at all. And that's just to help some of the rotation. The other thing I do is, if you don't have a engine stand or a clamp or anything like me, I just put my arm across like so and hold up on the connecting rod while you torque. And that's all you really need to do. It's only 10 foot-pounds, or sorry, 7.2 foot-pounds, 10 Newton meters, so it's really not a whole lot of torque. And yeah, they'll go on no problem. All right, clutch cover and clutch linkage here is all in one unit. You can see right there. Okay. The gear part has to line up, I find, right with that pin back here, so you want it facing that. If you got to turn, you're never going to get it to go into this here slot, right? That's where it goes, and you can see how it activates against the gear. Timing now on this is a problem. Okay, so you have to figure out where you want this rod before you go and assemble it if you're doing it this way. Because the clutch cable sits between here and here, and if this is in the wrong place, you pull your clutch, it's not gonna, it'll bottom out or it'll be too far, you won't get the cable on. Now I've seen guys jam the whole cover on and mess with it that way, but that bolt right there, if you loosen that, you can actually pull that up. And now it won't come all the way out because the gear will hit the seal, but once it's up and out of the way, you can slide the cover on and then raise and lower this till you get your timing down. Alright, so I'll just throw this on here real quick and show you what I'm talking about. I'm not sure you can hear that. The kids are rocking in the background. Well, my daughter anyway. Okay, so there's the cover on. So that tells you that that clutch activating pin is in the hole where it's supposed to be on the inside here. The nut's loose. I got one bolt just held in finger tight to hold the cover on while I'm doing this. And you can see that's up, so the gear is not engaged. All you do, put it down, wiggle it a bit. Now I find basically facing back works for me because now I can feel it's touching. There's a kind of a timing mark right there on the case. Alright, clutch cover's all torqued up. You can see my new makeshift drain bolt there. And everything is down to 7.2 foot-pounds, 10 Newton meters I believe it is. The last thing I did was just to make sure the clutch was working fine. I put a screwdriver in like so and just gently pull it. Now it takes two hands obviously, and you can feel the clutch is working. You want the spring pressure there. I'm still waiting on the cylinder. Machine shop's got it there. They're putting a new sleeve in for me. As you can see by the weather earlier, it's going to be a while before I'm driving this, so I think I'm pretty much done with the engine for now until I get that. I might just throw the reed cage in. eBay did provide, like I thought. There's my new carb boot and my reeds right there. They're in decent shape, so maybe I'll just throw those together and that'll be it for now.